I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Thank you.
Thank you. Great way to start the day again.
You what, honey?
A great way to start the day again.
Absolutely.
I'm loving
I
that chair.
also bring the
Making
Holy
it more
Spirit
nice.
into my space.
Okay.
Just ask the Holy Spirit to be with us and direct us and whatever, wherever this is to end in a positive fashion, that it does get there. And like I say, Michael Hollingsworth is a person that I know that knows a high-up person at HBO. You may already know somebody.
I don't personally, but some of my team I think does, but I'll advance that name to that group.
And call Michael and talk to him and see who he knows. He's sober a long time, and
Awesome.
he's on my board of directors at Friendly
Okay.
House. So he would be quite interested to see whatever you
This
can
evolves,
get going.
right. Yeah, because at the end of today, we'll have a little over 30 interviews that we've done, and just rich material to share and have them engage us in truly creating a series that's really going to help affect change in this way. And really a lot of it, and I'm going to really encourage you to talk more about the family afterwards and your clients and your own personal stories, whatever that might be, and your work at Friendly House and the graduates, and just what a remarkable transformation that's happened with so many of your clients. Yeah. That feels right? That feels comfortable to you to
Absolutely.
talk about that?
Absolutely.
Okay. Is there anything you really want to say that you'd like me to ask you that you feel based on what you know of this project? And
Right, we're just gonna.
you pronounce your last name Albright?
Albrecht.
Albrecht.
Yeah.
Albrecht.
Either way is fine.
Albrecht.
And that feels like a pretty good position for you, if you're comfortable. You're in a good
And
spot.
Perry, lean to your left so I can tell you where you're in when you're in trouble. Lean, left. There, you're in.
So I can be animated.
Yeah.
You can be animated. No jumping around now.
And then I guess he told you you're just going to look at me.
So the answer-
I'm your eye candy.
The answer to your HBO question is we don't know anybody. We need all the help we can get.
Okay, good.
Don't hedge on that.
Don't hedge on that.
Yeah.
All right. I'm in a learning curve.
Okay. I'm
Absolutely.
rolling. Okay, Perry, we're rolling away.
Hi, Peggy. It's really an honor to have you here today to help us with this.
Gonna
film.
have to speak up just a little bit.
Okay. Peggy, it's really an honor that you're here today to help us with this film series on the collateral damage of addiction and yet really the positive force of collateral recovery and compassion. And you've worked in a program and directed a program called Friendly House.
Yes.
And what got you to start working at the Friendly House?
Many years ago, I had been working for a Fortune 500 company. When the Mama Papa company sold to a conglomerate, I was one of the lady executives that they let go. And, you know, in those days, the college boys moved in and took over. It was higher education in companies. So as I left that program, what I knew in my life, I had just been through a divorce. I had just had a major surgery, and I felt pretty beaten down. But I thought, what will I do tomorrow? What I know in my head is I have a place to go today. I have a group of women that I can go and talk to and share what's happening with me, and they will direct me. This is a group of women that work a 12-step program, and what I know is they have never directed me in a negative way. So I'll go back and talk to these women, which I did to learn that God had not brought me this far to abandon me, that the door will open for my next step. My next step was one of these women told me that Friendly House, a home for women in recovery from alcohol and drug addiction, needed an executive director. Wasn't quite sure what that meant, what it was about, But I showed up and I talked to the women on the board of Friendly House, and I thought, okay, they need someone here. I've worked this 12-step program. At this point, it was 12 years. And I'll do this for 6 months and I'll find the right person for this job. I took that job. I watched the miracles walk through the doors of Friendly House. You know, the woman with the alcohol or drug addicted past who needed help, who needed a 12-step program, who needed guidance in helping her put her life back together. And to watch her walk through that door, and it was like a flower. May I mention your name in this as
Sure.
we're talking? May I talk to Perry?
Sure, yeah.
You know, Perry, it was like a woman, like a flower that was closed. And as she worked these steps and listened to direction, the flower began to open and become so beautiful. And that for me said, this is the work that I want to do. What I do say, which I believe, is I got out of my own way and I let the divine power be my director. Therefore,
You're now, what, 30 years later? That
this October, this year, it will be 30 years. Yes. And I am more than grateful that I have been allowed to carry this message. I am more than grateful to watch these women and become part of their lives as they have become part of my life.
Okay, well, as part of your life, what led you into your own recovery? What was your life looking like 12 years prior to this position? Can you share a little bit about that?
I've been born and raised in Chicago, and I come from a very kind, loving family. My mom and dad were both good people. They were not alcoholic. They were 6 of us. And Perry, from a very early age, my addiction said, you're the kid that's not loved. That's part of my disease, part of my feeling less than. And I found alcohol. I found alcohol gave me that feeling of being comfortable with you, being comfortable talking to you. I even thought I could solve all your problems after I had a few glasses of alcohol. And my life was not getting better. Now, I can say I never lost a job due to alcohol, but I did geographics due to alcohol. Therefore, I know that my life had been disrupted, and I was making choices that I now, today, know were not in my best interest. A friend was moving to California because of my alcoholism, because of the fashion in which I was drinking. I didn't want my family or friends to see this. I knew something was wrong. I knew something had to be done, but I didn't know what. I couldn't identify it. I could not put a label on what was happening, and what was happening was alcoholism. Friend moved to California, and I thought, well, I'll move to California also. Maybe that change will help my geographic. And what happened, because I do have the disease of alcoholism, my drinking progressed. It got worse. I had a lot of days homesick from the office because of my alcoholism, being hung over, not being able to show up, not being able to get it together many, many times. Finally, what I knew, Perry, is I had to kill myself. What I had to do was go down to Skid Row. I know where Skid Row is located here in Los Angeles. I would just take what little money I had left and buy alcohol. Whenever I did not return to the office, I would see a doctor and get a letter from the doctor that whatever illness we wanted to call it for that season, it was always a flu season, and I would get medication for the flu, and I never took those pills. So I had those pills in my medicine cabinet, and I had the money that I could buy a case of alcohol, and I'll move down to Skid Row. And While there, I'll just kill myself, and who would care? I likened myself to Jane Doe. Once the body is found, it's just another Jane Doe, and who would care? Again, the hopelessness, the helplessness of the alcoholic woman is where I had been. And I knew a member of my family who had joined a program, a 12-step program. He talked to me about this program, and I said I would try. I attended this 12-step program, didn't quite understand it, did not realize what was going on in those rooms, but I kept coming back because I had no place else to go. It was working. I wasn't drinking. A day at a time, I wasn't drinking. A day at a time, my life was getting better. A day at a time, I was showing up at the office and performing very well.
And this was in 1971?
This is in 1971 is when I got clean and sober. May the 10th of 1971 is a day that I don't ever want to forget. A day in the history of my life that made my life better.
And it sounds like you've had this profound change in your life, from maybe in the dark to the light, or as a metaphor. You're not the same person.
We call it a psychic change. Yes, I'm not the same person. Again, I can say I have been given a life, a change in my personality, because a 12-step program that I work is a program of change. And what I absolutely know, Perry, is it works. A day at a time, the program that I work does work. Works for me and for many, many others. You know, I continually see women come back. They come back to Friendly House to visit. They come back to Friendly House because we have a women's group on Thursday night. They come back in abundance. Their lives have changed. I have seen these young women go back to school to get a higher education. I have seen these women become doctors. I have seen these women become psychologists. I have seen these women operating their own business on a very high level today. Seen a lot of positive change.
Okay. Well, how about then, there's a lot that has been written in the past about stigma and alcoholism, both in the past and even still today. And there's also been talk that women alcoholics, and in particular women alcoholic mothers with children, have like these extra layers of stigma. Is that something you've seen with your own experience, as well as how that might have changed or looks different today, or is it really the same?
What society thinks of the alcoholic, and especially the alcoholic woman, yeah, there is a very strong stigma, which is really, really sad. Because when these women do get sober and do change their life, they're a different person. But they're afraid to go back to a PTA meeting. They're afraid to go back to their jobs. And especially mothers are afraid to be involved with their children, to have the other mothers point a finger and say, oh, she's an alcoholic. Because it's such a positive thing to have a disease called alcoholism, and to be able to turn your life around and be that positive person and carry a positive message to the next woman who suffers with this disease.
Yes, and so you're speaking to recovery is possible and that it works, and yet a lot of folks still think maybe this is a moral issue, a character flaw versus a disease, a brain disease. What would you say to that, or can you speak more to that with the idea that it's not a moral issue?
I do not believe alcoholism is a moral issue. What I do believe is my chemistry, my bodily chemistry, is different from the woman who is not an alcoholic to the woman who can have an occasional drink. My chemistry says, and my mind says, once I pick up that first drink, I have to have more.
Mhm.
There is never enough. Once I start, I'm unable to control what I drink. What I know through working a 12-step program, I've learned how to do it. How do I do it? Through abstinence. I don't pick up the first drink. No, we're not morally bad people. What we did behind our disease, we couldn't help. We had no tools to live a better life. We did not have the tools to know what we should be doing and what we cannot be doing. Can we take a break for a minute?
Okay, sure.
Mhm.
We can do
How we doing?
Very
Great.
beautiful.
That'll teach you.
Now, there's only one Perry.
I've been 12-step with him, so.
Are you? Oh, big job, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, the ACOA stuff. Yeah, I've shared that if this film doesn't change us, how is it gonna change other folks, help facilitate that change? And it certainly has rocked all our worlds, and I knew that going in. This is messy work, it can be.
Yeah, it's great. And like I say, it's really important that you men get this message out there, that people do hear this message.
Okay, and in that message, Peggy, you've had some women, clients, and I wonder if any of them have stuck out in your mind that have really repaired the wreckage of their past, and what that might have looked like and how they got there. How did that happen? Maybe a specific thing or two, maybe around forgiveness or some deeper work that they did. Could you share an example or two of that, either in yourself or somebody else?
Mhm.
Okay, what would that be?
I have a young woman that came to Friendly House 4 years ago. When she came to Friendly House, she had nothing in her life going for her. Her family did not want her. She had 2 children. They did not want to be a part of her life. Where her disease had taken her was to the streets, to work the streets to get whatever money she could for her alcohol and her drugs.
Mm-hmm.
When she finally was beaten down so badly from working in the streets, she was sent to Friendly House. She came into Friendly House. She spent 9 months with us. In those 9 months, we were able to help her get her life back together, get back in communication with her 2 sons. She decided she wanted to go back to school for higher education. She had not graduated from high school. We helped her get her GED. She then went back on to higher education. Today she is working in an office as a lady. She gets up every morning and she has said to me, I feel so good to be able to shower and get dressed and to do my hair and to put makeup on and show up as a lady in this office, and these people don't know what my background was, and I'm proud to be a part of that. She is back in school, and after her 2nd semester in school, her professor asked her what was her education prior to now, and she said, I didn't graduate from high school. He said, it's astounding how bright you are. Please stay in education. You can do something with your life. You can become someone. She does have both of her sons back in her life. Her older son is in communication all of the time. Her younger son, who today is 12 years old, is living with his father's family out of state. She is fighting to get custody of this child, get him back into California to be in her life. He wants to be back in her life. She is amazing. She's a woman who walks tall today and has a really lot going for her.
What would you say this transformation, some identifiable traits, did she have little or no spirituality, a relationship with some sense of a power? Obviously, she has now a recovering community like yourself that supports her. But maybe what was that like, or can you recall maybe her moment of truth or moments of truth, or other people like that?
Her background was a broken home. Her mother was an alcoholic and what she called a pillhead. Her mother was never available for her. She wasn't available emotionally. She wasn't available spiritually. She wasn't available for her in any area. What she found, this young woman found by working a 12-step program, is she found, as we call it, and I don't want to scare people, she found a God of her understanding. We don't get into any religion. We don't preach religion. We do talk about a spiritual path. We do talk about a power greater than ourselves. Whatever that power might be is what we grasp onto that changes our life.
And then it changes other folks' life, because it sounds to me she was a child of an addict, a pill popper, as you said. Now she has an opportunity to do the best she can with her own children,
Yes,
so they don't turn out like that.
And you
Yes.
scoot you a little to the right, just about an inch.
Great, thank you.
yes, her life is like if we dropped a pebble into a pond of water. The ripples that go out from that reaches out and far and keeps going, and I feel this woman's life is like that, with her parent, her mother, with her children, with the relatives that don't want her to have her younger son.
Okay. And then I would imagine too, and her educational experience, and in her office, and in her community, she becomes an asset when somebody gets recovery. That there's statistics that say an alcoholic or an addict will affect in other people's lives, like 4 to 5 different people or more in their lives. But recovery does the same thing, wouldn't you say? And in your own experience at the Friendly House, I would imagine your program has been well respected and with awards, with the community just so embracing you. And I imagine it sounds like with your leadership, that's grown, hasn't it? Through media, through support. Could you speak to that at all, as far as your program is an asset to the community? And what's that look like, and how's that been acknowledged?
You know, Perry, I had mentioned to you when I went to Friendly House the grandiosity of this woman who was afflicted with alcoholism said, I'll do this for 6 months and then I'll move on. Friendly House has been a foundation. We're a nonprofit foundation. We've been in business for 61 years. I am the second executive director. The first executive director was B. Jorgensen, who stayed sober and died sober. I have reached many lives. I have, can we stop for a minute? I feel like I'm being redundant.
Doesn't seem like that.
We didn't hear any redundancy over here.
Okay, alrighty,
You're trying to find the right way to say what you want to say, but redundant ain't happening.
okay.
It'll reinforce.
Pardon?
Or it's called reinforcing
Okay.
a point. Slightly different.
We're on again.
As I said, Perry, Friendly House, the foundation is 61 years old. Being the second executive director, I have been able to reach out into the community. I have been able to, as a nonprofit organization, to reach into the community with a very positive attitude. What I get back from my community is a positive attitude. What I get back from very many, and celebrities here in California have become involved with Friendly House. We're able to keep Friendly House doors open through donations from these women and men. We're able to keep the doors open and help women. I don't want to get into money here too
Okay, we
much.
can shift to public perception, how that's evolved, it sounds like, that as you mentioned, celebrities and just others, just the evolution of more support, more recognition of a program like yourself, and how that's grown to other programs.
When I went to Friendly House almost 30 years ago, we were doing the best we could to raise funds by having a luncheon in the valley. At that time, it was a $20 luncheon. And what I knew, Perry, is Friendly House could not survive on this, that we had to deep a little further. That's when I got involved in fundraising, reaching out to celebrities, reaching out to women who had gone through the house and were aware of the work that was being done there. Yes, we are very highly rated. Yes, we have a good reputation. Yes, people talk very positively about us. Women who have gone through the house continue to refer women back to Friendly House. So in that way, I know the women who are staying clean and sober. I get to meet the new woman who wants to be clean and sober and help her on her path. So there's a lot of support out there. There's a lot of positive feedback to Friendly House. So that makes my work a joy and makes it easier to do.
Well, and I just have another, maybe two questions to ask. And one is, have you seen, over the last 40 years, a different kind of alcoholic or addict that has shown up at your doors, and has that been anything different about that kind of a woman to receive treatment? Is it more complicated? Is it more difficult? What would you say to that, if anything?
Over my 41 years of sobriety, Perry, what I am aware of is the alcoholic 41 years ago is different than the alcoholic of today. What I believe the difference is, there are many, many drugs out there that were not available 41 years ago. There were drugs there. They weren't as available. Today, the availability for a woman to get a pill because she's overwrought, because she can't handle being a wife, she can't handle being a mother. There is a Valium that you can take. There are pills that you can take. Doctors are readily willing to write a script. A lot of doctors. I'm not saying every one. But women come to Friendly House coming off of alcohol as well as coming off of drugs. It makes it a little more difficult because it takes a little more time to reach the brain that has been fed drugs. So that's what I find is the difference in today's woman alcoholic.
What about also age? Are women entering treatment at a younger age than maybe 20, 30, 40 years ago?
Because they are involved in alcohol and drugs, it is getting them to this program quicker. Perry, I work with 17-year-old young women who are coming off of crystal meth. Crystal meth is a drug in today's world that's a killer. And these young kids are getting it on the school ground. They're getting it from brothers 16 years old. They start when they're 13 years old, and by the time they're 17, their parents are aware, their parents are willing to do something about it and get this child into recovery. It does work for these kids. Those that truly want to stop what they're doing do get clean and sober and do stay clean and sober. I know a young woman who got clean and sober when she was 13 years old. Today she's a lady attorney. She has totally turned her life around and can carry this message of sobriety works, can carry this message to these kids saying that I'm an example. You know, watch and do what we do. You can change your life, and your life will change because you have a positive attitude.
Yeah, I think that's our friend June that you're talking about. Maybe you're talking about June? Yeah. Well then, so we're at the end of this interview. what would you say, Hope, as you, to the viewer who's watching this, who's sitting on their couch, and they got complications and problems on top of problems that maybe they're finally figuring out are because of alcohol or drugs, or they have a family member who is. What would you say to the person that is watching?
Do you want me to address women on that, or?
Yeah, I think so.
Just women.
Yes, that's really your specialty. And
Mhm,
really, but you can, it can be either sex, but yeah, if you could go more specific to that.
You know, Perry, what I would like to say to the woman out there who is still suffering or has a family member who is still suffering from this disease of alcohol and or drug addiction, don't hesitate. Pick up the phone and make a phone call. There are many, many places that you can call today. There are many places that you can get help. And know, if it didn't work, I would not be sitting in this interview right now. What I can tell you is 12-step programs do work. They're free for the charge. You just find the room to go to. You find another woman to be your guide and to work with you. She will hold your hand and walk you through 12 steps. And at the end, you'll be able to reach out to the next woman. So if you're sitting out there and you're afraid to take that step, don't be afraid. Take a deep breath, walk to the phone, pick up the phone, and just ask the operator to connect you with, in your neighborhood, it would be an office for Alcoholics Anonymous. That's how you can get started. The hospitals will work with you. Treatment centers will work with you. There are many places for you to call. Again, I say, don't be afraid. Give yourself that break. Give yourself a chance for a better life.
Great.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Yeah, very nice.
Thank you.
Inspiring.
Goddess of Mercy. It was wonderful.